And we are live. Welcome everybody to Coaster Time episode 45, hosted by me, Carrick from Coaster Hour. And for today, we will be catching up on the announcements that took place in late July and August, so really a lot to get through. And with that, I'm also bringing back viewer call-ins for today's episode, which means that for those of you watching, you can come on and provide your thoughts on the announcements that interested you the most once the time comes. I have the StreamYard link pinned at the top of the chat and also in a description, so that is where you'll be able to access that. And I should also note a few things before we get into the stream and before we start with our first Q&A, and that is that obviously the setup behind me looks a little different. I ended up moving again. That's actually kind of part of the reason why I haven't been so active as of late on the channel, so that is one thing I wanted to mention. And along with that, I was able to do a few trips since the last real Coaster Time stream I did. I was able to revisit Santa Monica Pier. I rerode West Coaster and was able to spend time at the park and in LA with former guests of the stream, Christian from Theme Park Horizons and Callie from Callie the Coaster Enthusiast, so that was exciting. And I also did a trip where I went to Portland and Seattle for the first time. And I also got to visit Oaks Amusement Park in Enchanted Forest also for the first time on that trip. So anyone who has any questions relating to that, any of the Q&A sessions will be the time to ask any questions related to those things. But also, of course, as always, you can ask any Q&A related to anything else. And with that being said, I'm going to open this up to our first Q&A session. So for anyone who has any questions, I'll be answering those right now, and then in probably the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll go into the news. So that is going to be the plan. Washington State Fair was not going at the time when I went to Seattle, so I didn't go there. I actually did pass by Wild Waves. I did not go there either. Honestly, going by it, I didn't even feel that bad. But I will get there eventually. I want to get both Washington State Fair and Wild Waves, so I will hopefully get to those eventually here in the future. And then Silverwood, I was not able to get to. That's pretty far out of the way compared to the other ones, so that is one that I was unable to get to. I have not been to Frontier City yet. It's another park that's going to be a little tricky to get to. Out there in Oklahoma City. I've never even been to the state of Oklahoma, but it definitely seems like a really nice park for what it is, even though it's a little on the smaller side, especially for Six Flags, but it looks like it has some nice theming, some nice charm. Definitely look to eventually get there at some point, for sure. How did the weird trains on Ice Mountain Bobsled feel? Yeah, they were interesting. So that entire ride was quite the attraction. The bobsled seating, it is you don't really have any restraints, and there's a few moments. One moment if you're in the front, and I would say probably two moments if you're in the back where you do get airtime on the coaster, and it's a pretty weird feeling and kind of crazy feeling because you have no restraint. You are kind of in that sled position. It is pretty unusual for some who are less experienced, potentially even sort of terrifying. Also, the very claustrophobic coaster, even though you have the glass over you. So you know you're not actually going to hit anything, but it still feels like when you're going through those tunnels that the car is going to run right into the tunnel or you're just not going to make it through. So very weird trains, definitely makes the overall ride experience a lot more interesting. And the ride overall is very fun. So I actually had a very good time with Ice Mountain Bobsled. Did it twice, once in the front row, once in the back row. Front row had better views in the first airtime hill, which gives the strongest moment of airtime on the entire ride, is better in the front row, but the back row is more aggressive overall, a little more rough and jolty, but nothing too much to deal with. And there's also this one kind of drop where it's slanted that if you're in the back row, it gives you both some really nice laterals for the kind of ride it is, and a surprising pop of airtime. So that was definitely an interesting ride to experience overall. Do I think that Frontier City will get a Raptor because of the new theme park over by Tulsa? Am I glitching out? Hold on. If anyone else in chat is having issues with hearing my audio, then let me know. This has been kind of a weird issue for some during some streams. So I'm not okay. Then that might have been a... Sometimes it's a issue on some viewers, like connection. It's fine. But yeah, I know that that's happened as of late. So hopefully it's not a big issue. But with that being said, I don't think that Frontier City will be getting a Raptor really at all, because they'd probably have to get a smaller scale one, and the smaller scale ones have been having more issues, it really seems like. I mean, just look at what they're doing with Wonder Woman at Fiesta Texas, and I don't think the theme park American Heartland, which we will talk about because that did get announced, I will just say right now I don't see that actually being built, unfortunately. There's just a lot of reasons to doubt that it will actually come to be. I'd love to be proven wrong, and I'm pulling for it to actually open, but it just seems very unlikely, just given a few different things with the company behind it and the practicality of a park that large with that kind of budget actually doing well in the area that it's in. Honestly, do I consider Big Timber Log Ride as an actual coaster? I personally do not. I think Canopy Coaster, he did a review on it. He kind of perfectly explained what RCDB looks at for why it is considered a coaster or not. It's basically, he believes that RCDB, they really, if a log flume has like a coaster element at the very end, but nowhere else, it'll probably consider it as a log flume. But if it has a coaster section somewhere else in the layout, it considers it as a coaster. Those are not my standards, and for that reason, I do not see Big Timber Log Ride as an actual coaster or credit. I do not count it. If that like sort of section had like some water underneath it, there would be no debate. It would definitely not be a coaster. It just doesn't. It's just a dry section. So for that reason, I just don't really consider it as a coaster. Yes, it has different track than like the rest of the attraction, but it doesn't really, I mean, like a log flume can do that kind of dip. So it's really not something that only like a roller coaster can do, is kind of how I look at it when it comes to whether a water ride or like a coaster that has like log flume elements is an actual coaster. Because like Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld San Diego, which I do consider as a coaster, has that one sort of twisty section that there's no way a log flume is going to be able to do that. So that is sort of my reasoning for not considering Big Timber Log Ride a roller coaster, if that makes sense. On the topic, I think an RMC Wild Moose would fit perfect in the Nightmare Building. That definitely would be one that would make a lot of sense, given the previous history of that attraction. Don't know if they would go that route, but hey, it's always an option. I'm very curious to see what the interest for the RMC Wild Moose ends up looking like. I'm sure RMC is going to be promoting that a lot and as hard as they can during IAPA or as we get closer to it. So I think that's going to be pretty fascinating to watch. And I think, yeah, you have a good spot for it. Frontier City would be a place where that would make a lot of sense, for sure. Do you think Six Flags will sell... if you could clarify your question. Theme park. If you could clarify a little more, what that is. If you're asking if they would sell a park, do I see them doing that? I don't really get the vibe that that's something that they're looking at. So I'm going to say no for now. I don't see that happening anytime super soon. Just, it doesn't seem like that's where the chain is headed or something that they would consider right now. Obviously, if someone comes with a good enough offer, there's a park that we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, then maybe something like that happens. But I wouldn't say with confidence that I see that happening, so I don't believe that something like that will happen. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Maybe a few water parks, but that is probably it. I mean, they did acquire a decent bit, so I understand the logic there. But I mean, if you have a good water park that does well, then I mean hard to beat that. So I wouldn't say that that's super likely, but you never know. That's something that who knows really what those conversations are like in terms of if that's something on the table on the inside or not. Have you already said, have I already given my thoughts on Adrenaline Peak? Actually, I haven't. So that was easily my favorite ride at Oaks Amusement Park. Actually, pretty nice park. If you're a fan of skating, they actually have a really cool skating rink. It's the oldest one in the US and the largest one west of the Mississippi, which is pretty cool. So that's something also definitely worth checking out. They also have a nice collection of flats, but Adrenaline Peak was, at the end of the day, my favorite attraction there. And it's obviously a small ride, very compact, but the elements it puts in or has in its layout are quite good. Pretty intense, short ride. Two really nice airtime pops with the, of course, first drop being phenomenal. And the hop heading into the brake run is pretty nice. And the inversions on it, the vertical loop has some nice hang time, but it's also pretty intense on the pull in and pull out. And the sort of roll it has toward the end of the layout also gives some really nice hang time as well. So it's overall a very good coaster, definitely a great fit for that park, great coaster for its size. And it's definitely, if you're in Portland and you're thinking about going to that park, if nothing else, you can at least marathon that ride because it's definitely quite re-rideable in my opinion. There's a little bit of a rattle to it, but it's not anything that bad. I think some people kind of over-exaggerated it when I was heading in, to be honest. But overall, just good things really to say for Adrenaline Peak. I wish I could have ridden it at night because obviously it has a really nice light package. So it has the KCL light package, but I was not there long enough for that. What do I think about Steamtown at Six Flags America? Obviously, that's something that's going to be covered here in probably like the next 7-ish minutes. But I'll go into it because I probably won't go... we have so many announcements, I probably won't go super in-depth. I think it's a much-needed addition for Six Flags America. It's replacing Coyote Creek, I believe is the name of the area that it's taking over. They needed something to happen to that area because it had been closed for quite a while. And finally, something's, of course, come in. I'm very curious to see how the sort of steampunk / Old West sort of looking theming ends up looking like in real life, but based off the concept art, a lot of it which was AI done, which I'm not exactly the biggest fan of, but not really too relevant in the grand scheme of the announcement. It looked pretty ambitious for sure for Six Flags' standards. Mind Eraser, a lot of people thought it was going. There's a reason I never officially said it was dead. It's kind of like they've never really announced it. And I kind of held my breath on it. Turns out there was a good reason. They are renovating it with a new train, so should be a much improved experience. Obviously, the new Nebulas is going to be a nice little flat ride addition. And just giving upgrades to that area of the park, making it look nicer and be a better place and a better area for the park is really going to help a lot. So I think it was a really good addition for the park specifically, and a very good investment. hopefully it'll end up being, because I think it's going to do wonders for Six Flags America. Like I said, it was very much needed. Best park in SoCal, Disneyland is my #1 overall park. So, absolutely love that place, from the theming, the food, the ride collection. Even though, like, obviously coasters and big thrills, it doesn't exactly excel in that category, but as someone who really appreciates dark rides and themed experiences, I do think it does have one of the best attraction lineups out there. It just runs so deep, and there's so many world-class rides, for sure. Rise of the Resistance, Indiana Jones, which is actually my favorite ride there. Space Mountain is a really good coaster. I was going to say Splash Mountain. Obviously, that is being changed, but once it returns, I'm sure it'll still be fantastic. They just got Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I have not done that, but I'm sure that'll be quite the experience once it opens. And Pirates of the Caribbean is another great ride. There's just so many. So Disneyland for sure takes the cake there. How was West Coaster compared to last time? So this time, the first time I rode it a few years ago, they did allow row requests, and I was able to get the back row. It had some pretty nice, the one hill especially, in the middle of the layout gave a really nice pop of airtime, but also like the drop going into it. And this time around, we kind of got put towards the middle. Still, I think, yeah, kind of in the middle, basically, is where we were. And it wasn't quite as good as I remembered, but I think that's also because we were just in a worse sort of seat. But it was still fun. It still does do a little more than you would expect for a ride of its layout when you just look at it. So it's still a fun ride, but definitely didn't quite live up to the first ride. Not to say it was ever anything too insane, but it's still a pretty fun coaster. Yes, definitely still more expensive than I would like, but I mean, it's an iconic coaster, and it's a fun little ride, so not a whole lot I can ask for it, just considering that. You think you could see a refurb of Quick Draw, which is Frontier City's dark ride? I actually don't know too much about the attraction besides the name. So the log flume was rethemed, and a new queue shade was added, and the ride's effects are probably not in the best of shape. Do I think it's possible? Refurb of the dark ride? I wouldn't know the park well enough to know if that's something they would consider. It's obviously nice that we're seeing some refurbs and major upgrades being made to some aging attractions across Six Flags. And if that's one that could really need it, I certainly would hope that that's something on the horizon. So I'll say it's possible for sure for that reason. Do I think Six Flags Discovery Kingdom will get a new coaster or flat ride in 2025, or a refurb to Kong in 2025? Really, any of those would be a very good fit for Discovery Kingdom, for sure. It is interesting now that you mention it. Refurb to Kong in 2025. I think something like that could make a lot of sense. And with the way Six Flags is going, and they've done a lot of refurbs and at least putting new trains on their other SLCs across the chain, I think I'd probably buy that out of the bunch there to happen. Although maybe you could get something like, maybe the refurb does happen and maybe they can also get like a little flat ride edition or something like that. So I think something along those lines would make sense for 2025 for sure. Alrighty, so yeah, so Mind Eraser, I remember mentioning this, but yeah, Darien Lakes, Mind Eraser, Kong, and Ednor are the only ones with the old trains. And if I had to guess which out of these three would be next on the list to get the new trains, it would probably be Kong, followed by Mind Eraser and then Ednor. So Kong probably would be the next one out of the bunch. I would assume. So that would make a lot of sense there. Alrighty. Why do I think that Las Vegas doesn't have more roller coasters? It's that whole thing is kind of a weird thing. They built up a lot of stuff in like the 90s, and I guess Speed the Ride was like early 2000s. I believe I watched a video on it. They were trying to cater more to the Las Vegas area was trying to cater more to families, make it so that they could visit and have some fun. And that just kind of went away after a while. So I think actually also Big Apple Coaster was in that era as well. So I think that's kind of why it was just kind of a phase and sort of a fad, and it kind of died. And I think that's why we haven't really seen any major coasters built in Las Vegas over the last probably almost 20 years at this point. So if not over 20 years, really. So, and I don't really expect a resurgence to happen. So I think that probably has something to do with why we haven't seen a whole lot there. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go. We've reached about 20 minutes, so I'll answer the last few things, and then we'll move on to covering the news. So that's gonna be the plan there. Six Flags America is your home park. Hey, good addition though. I mean that it's a promising addition for Six Flags America there. So at least you have that to look forward to for sure. Yeah, History and Leisure kind of hit it pretty well actually. There was sort of a phase, like kind of like I said in the 90s, that they wanted to make it more family friendly, and it just kind of died out, and that's kind of what happened. History and Leisure pretty much hit that exactly. If Canyon Blaster is removed from the AdventureDome, would be nice to see what new Vekoma would do. I hope not. Still need to get that credit, and honestly, I've heard really nice things about that Arrow Looper, so I really hope that that one stays around for a while longer. Would also be pretty complicated to replace it too, given the space and area they have to work with. But I mean, obviously, in a situation where that happened and they had to remove it, I'm sure Vekoma could do something pretty nice for sure. And then you feel like Six Flags St. Louis might RMC boss soon, but I don't know when they would. I mean, there's rumors that it's in discussion, so you know it could. That's something that may happen next few years. There was gonna mention this during the news, but it was gonna be kind of hard to fit in because it wasn't official news, kind of a rumor. But there was a YouTuber who talked with the Six Flags St. Louis new GM. It was prior to the announcement happening for 2024, but he talked with him in an interview. And in the interview, he mentioned that they were going to get announce something new for 2024. That it, of course, ended up happening with what they ended up announcing. But supposedly, according to the YouTuber off camera, they had a conversation, and the new general manager said that he was pushing management for getting RMC boss. And if you go even like sort of deeper into the whole rumor circle, there's been some rumors that RMC boss has been considered in the past, and that that it may have almost even happened at one point. So I think the chances of it happening are pretty eventually at some point pretty likely. I think it's almost just a matter of when and not if, which I have mixed feelings on that. I really wish they could just give it like a Ghost Rider treatment, but that's not really what Six Flags does. I think that would be the best route to go, to be honest. But if they utilize Boss's layout to its full potential for an RMC, which is also something that is a little questionable if Six Flags would actually do that, I think they could get something really amazing, and definitely the standout coaster that they need. So, along with one of the world's best, if it's executed to anywhere near full potential. So, Definitely that would be an interesting possibility that I think we'll probably end up seeing in the next few years in one way or another. So yes, we will see what happens there. Alrighty. At this point, I think I'm going to move on to the news. I think we're going to do that. And so with that being said, we're going to go straight into it. And with our first little bit of news. So a lot of the announcements we got, obviously over the last month, mostly US, North American based, but for the European viewers out there probably watching after the stream has ended, because timing wise, not very good for watching it live right now. But for those of you in the UK, Drayton Manor will receive an Intamin lift and launch coaster coming in 2024. This was discussed in an interview back in July. It is happening. This is not necessarily the layout they're getting. This is just a stock layout, but that'll be a new, nice family coaster edition for them for sure. And then next we have the American Heartland theme park that was brought up earlier. That has been announced. It is expected to go into Craig County, Oklahoma, with an expected 2026 opening. Now, at this point, really, that is, I kind of mentioned it earlier, I don't really believe in this park actually getting like built. I just, it's just a lot. It's a $2 billion theme park resort. It's in an area that is within driving distance of a decent amount of major cities, from my understanding, but it's not like super close to one. And there's some things that I've seen with the company behind it, how they've had other projects they've announced that have gone nowhere. There's some pretty good minds behind it. I know that they have some former Imagineers who are helping out with the design of the park. And obviously there's some promising aspects of the park. I think some people dug into the concept art, and there's going to be, based off the concept art, there's a wooden coaster in it that appeared to be a clone of Thunderhead at Dollywood. And there was also something that appeared to be an Intamin multi-launch of some sort. And this park overall, based off the concept art, looks fantastic. I hope it does happen. I just don't have a whole lot of optimism that it actually will. But if it does, I mean, that is fantastic. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where this goes, if anything does end up progressing. Because, I mean, this would be like an amazing park to have. An amazing, really, park for the region as well. So... And really only good things would probably come about from it existing. But I just have a lot of questions on if that will actually happen. But it is a very exciting project if it does happen. So that is pretty much a wait and see. But obviously pretty exciting new park if it does end up coming to fruition. Next we have Universal Studios Florida. They have announced their new 2024 DreamWorks Kids area, which will be bringing back Woody Woodpecker's Nut House coaster. There's been some trademarks filed, and it's going to be renamed, most likely based off the trademarks, to Troller Coaster with the new Trolls theme. So you do have that. Will be interesting to see what the entire area ends up looking like. We still don't have a whole lot of details besides this one rendering of like the entrance logo and a few other things. So a lot still to be determined. Curious to see how certain IPs are utilized, which ones get the most focus. Already seems like Trolls is going to be one of those that gets a lot of focus, which it's very popular. Not one of my personal favorites, but I can see why they went that route. So I understand that, and it'll be an interesting one to monitor as the next few months go by. Next, we have another European announcement. This one definitely on the far more obscure side. So this park in Germany, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I know I'm going to butcher it really badly, but you can look it up on RCDB. They announced Wichtelexpress, which is a new art engineering family coaster for 2024. Just looks like a pretty standard, nice little family coaster for the park. And looking at the park, very family oriented, so it makes a lot of sense. Should be a good addition for them. And we'll move on to our next thing. AdventureDome, speaking of that park, has unveiled SpongeBob's Crazy Carnival ride, which will be a Sally Dark Rides attraction, a new dark ride, which is coming in December of 2023. It's being called the first of its kind on the West Coast. Still a lot of mystery around it, especially for a ride that's supposedly opening later this year. So definitely another one that I myself am quite intrigued in. And probably a lot of other people are, because a high quality SpongeBob dark ride would be awesome to see. So definitely looking forward to finding out more about this project once it materializes. Next, we have some Zamperla announcements. So they unveiled in late July their train setups. They have a truck train setup, a motorbike with a sidecar setup, and a motorbike car setup for their family launch coaster model. And they also mentioned that there will be a motorbike family launch coaster coming in 2025 on one of their Instagram posts. And they've also shown a new LSM coaster layout as well that was posted on their YouTube channel, I believe right around when Top Thrill 2 got announced. I forget if it was right before or right after, but it was kind of one of those. And looks like a pretty neat layout for sure. We'll see if this ends up being something that a park is interested in, because it looked pretty nice for sure looking at the POV of it and the animation. So that looked pretty cool. But speaking of Zamperla, that brings us to our Cedar Fair 2024 announcement. So obviously Top Thrill 2 was announced a while ago, like in early August. Haven't really talked about it here on the channel, but that's obviously going to be the Zamperla overhaul of Top Thrill Dragster. It'll feature a triple multi-pass launch, a 420-foot tall spike, and a longer experience as compared to the original Top Thrill Dragster. But a lot of questions, a lot of skepticism. I'm rooting for Zamperla to get this to work out. I think they have a lot of potential. They've really sort of looked in the mirror and seen how can they get better, and I hope that this project is able to work well and they're able to become like a sort of higher level coaster manufacturer for sure. Obviously, though, I do have some mixed thoughts on the attraction. I don't really love the name for the ride really at all. I just was not a fan of it. And as someone who loved Dragster, had it as their number 2 at the park, I don't think this ride will be quite as good as the original. But if it's more reliable, and if ultimately it ends up being a success for Cedar Point and Zamperla, that's really what matters at this point. So still is a pretty exciting addition, no doubt, for sure. And we'll have to see kind of how it goes, because that's going to be the big question of can it be reliable, and how just overall how good is this ride is going to be the main question. But we also have Iron Menace, a B&M dive coaster, coming to Dorney Park in 2024. Smaller B&M dive coaster without a mid-course brake run and 4 inversions. I think this layout looks really good for B&M dive coaster standards. And the name has gotten a very mixed reception. I'm actually starting to like it a little more. I think it works for what they're going for. So I'm growing on the name Iron Menace, so I'll say that. We also have Kings Island. They have Snoopy Sobok Racers. That is a Vekoma family boomerang coming to the park. Ironic considering the park 3 hours from them is also getting one of these, but should be a good addition for both parks in their respective lineups. That is just kind of an interesting note, and this one does look quite nice. And then we also have Canada's Wonderland. They announced Moosehorn Falls, which is a Whitewater West Boomerango water slide coming in 2024. Should be a good addition for the water park. And then Knott's Berry Farm will be making their 2024 Camp Snoopy announcement on October 24th, which you can see the teaser right there in the middle. Obviously a long ways to wait for that, but that will be the replacement for Timberline Twister, and I believe Camp Bus is the other attraction. So those are your Cedar Fair announcements. We also got Holiday World, and they announced Good Gravy. Love the overall name, theme, and vibe of this attraction. Perfect fit for Holiday World. This, of course, is a Vekoma family boomerang, a custom layout as well, with some nice theming elements. Just lovely addition for this park. Obviously, it is still very much a family coaster, but I think very well executed. Obviously, capacity is a bit of a concern here because it only is going to be able to run with one train, but I'm pretty excited for this attraction, for this park specifically. I think it's a very nice fit. Next, we have smaller news. Another Parc La Pal in France. They have unveiled their name for their mock water coaster, which is Fjord Explorer. So that is the name for that coaster there. We also have Mount Olympus. They have unveiled Rise of Icarus coming in 2024, which will be the tallest water slide in the US, measuring at 135 feet tall. An additional children's area with 10 kiddie slides are being added as well. So the pretty big addition for Mount Olympus, and their water park lineup continues to become quite powerful, for sure. Next, we have Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. They are planning to add a Chance Rides Ferris wheel. They got rid of their Ferris wheel that had operated there forever, a few years ago, and it looks like they are bringing a Ferris wheel experience back. It does look like it will come at the cost of Rock and Roll and Cliffhanger, which are two attractions that currently operate there, but that is something that they are working on doing kind of with the planning commission. So hopefully that's able to work out. Very scenic area, so Ferris wheel is definitely something you would love to see at a park like that. And we got some more things, like a lot of announcements, so I'll try to kind of go through a little quicker here. Vekoma has unveiled a few new ride models. One of them is Beat It, a new dueling boat ride model with interactive drums. And you can kind of watch the video, but basically it seems like that whichever boat drums the fastest will go up the lift till the fastest and be the winner. And out of the two boats, the one that loses is going to get soaked by a waterfall. So that's actually a pretty interesting concept there. The first one of these rides will be going to Vedanta World, so we do know that one of these is getting built. And then they also unveiled a new suspended dark ride model that has the capability of being a shooting dark ride as well. That's the one you can see there on the right. And I don't believe we have a confirmed one of these being built, but definitely looks like an intriguing model there from Vekoma. Nice to see them keeping up with innovation, of course. And then we also have Europa Park. They have unveiled the name for their 2024 coaster, which is Voltron Nevera, powered by Rimac. So that is the name of their 2024 coaster. Honestly, looks like one of the most exciting coasters coming next year. So good to see. Long name for sure. So I think a lot of us are still going to be referring to it as Voltron, basically what it's been throughout the kind of cycle of really it being built, so that's going to stick. But next we have an obscure manufacturer, Mark Rides, not Mock Rides. They revealed their new Crazy Island flat ride model, kind of like a toppled tower, but on like flat ground. It's kind of weird looking. If you look up a video of it, you can kind of see it. It's definitely a very unusual flat ride, but we'll see if this picks up any interest. And then we have the two announcements that I already reacted to, so I won't take too much time here. Obviously, Fire in the Hole at Silver Dollar City coming in 2024. You can watch my stream for my thoughts on that ride. And same can be said for the RMC Wild Moose Coaster, which was revealed a few weeks ago. Also did a reaction to that one, so you can kind of watch that and get my thoughts there. But obviously 2 other exciting announcements. And then we also have Underground at Adventureland. That is receiving a major renovation for its 50th anniversary. Seems to be updated effects, animatronics. The train, I believe, went back to PTC, and they're sort of reworking that. So that's sort of the thing going on there. Still a lot of mystery in terms of everything that this entails, but we do know that this is happening. And then we have our Six Flags 2024 announcements. Six Flags Over Georgia announced their Intamin Ultra Surf. Name is to be decided by fans, but definitely a very interesting addition for this park. Technically fills out a lot of gaps in their lineup, gives them a new water ride to replace the one that they got rid of with Splashwater Falls, also gives them a spinning coaster and a launch coaster, so really is kind of interesting how it kind of fills all those. So definitely an interesting ride addition. I do like it for the park. I just have some concerns about it being a prototype with Intamin. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out, but it does look like a very nice new ride. We also have Six Flags Fiesta Texas. They're getting an expanded DC universe with a new Zamperla Nebulas, Cyborg Cyber Revolution, a new Zamperla Family Drop Tower in Shazam Tower of Eternity, and a Zamperla Monorail, which is the Metropolis, I think, Authority Transit. I have it here. Transit Authority, yes. So that is the rides going there. They are also retheming several attractions to fit in with the area. Sky Screamer, Stunt Pilot, Stream. Is it? I get confused if it's Streamliner or Steamliner. I think it's Streamliner. And Sky Searcher and Rambling Road are all getting rethemed to fit in with the area. So that is that for Fiesta Texas. You also have Six Flags St. Louis. They are getting Joker Carnival of Chaos at Zamperla Giga Discovery, which will have a funhouse queue. Already discussed, there's also some sort of potential future RMC boss rumors, but not something that's coming this year. Kind of explained that earlier in the Q&A session. And then you also have Bobcat, the Gravity Group family wooden coaster that's replacing Alpine Bobsled, going to Six Flags Great Escape. Definitely a really good addition for that park. I mean, perfect for what they're going for, and it's awesome to see Six Flags work with Gravity Group. That is something I did not expect to see, but that is fantastic. And it keeps going really with Six Flags announcements. We also have Six Flags America. They're getting their Steamtown area. Kind of talked about it earlier. Fantastic fit really for the park. It's going to be replacing an area that was closed and had a lot of closed rides. It's going to be bringing upgrades to Mind Eraser with new trains, along with upgrades to Renegade Rapids and their bumper cars. But you're also going to be getting a Nebulas, the return of their stunt show from the past, and a lot more. So should be an awesome addition there. And then you also have Six Flags Great Adventure. They got Flash Vertical Velocity, which is a Vekoma Super Boomerang, which is obviously very exciting to see one of those come to North America. Another one where I question the capacity for sure, but besides that, looks like a fantastic addition. They're also getting Savannah Sunset Resort, Savannah Sunset and Spa Resort. Mistyped that on here. We also have Return of Safari Off-Road Adventure and upgrades to their Big Wheel and Sawmill Log Flume attractions, and really a lot more coming, so they got a lot planned for their 50th anniversary. And then you have Six Flags Over Texas. Of course, they had the original Log Flume in El Aserradero. That is actually being extended and becoming El Rio Lento. A lot of mystery surrounding the extension. There's been speculation that it's really combining the two log flumes because there's actually 2 of them. And there's been other speculations. We don't know a ton of details about it, but combining the 2 flumes kind of seems to make the most sense. So I'm kind of assuming that's what's going on. Seems that there will also be some theming upgrades. So should be a good investment for Over Texas for sure. And and hopefully it'll allow the log flume to be more reliable because it was actually closed when I went there to over Texas. So hopefully that'll end up working out that way. And we also have Sky Striker, Zamperla Giga Discovery going to Six Flags Great America. They need new flat rides and a better flat ride lineup, so it makes a lot of sense and is a great fit. Even has a unique name to it, which is nice too. Next, we have Tokyo Disney Sea. Their Fantasy Springs attraction names have been revealed, and those go as follows. You can read those here. But Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey, which is going to be very similar to Frozen Ever After at Epcot. You also have a boat ride, which is Rapunzel's Lantern Festival. That's going to be for the Tangled portion of the area. You also have Fairy Tinkerbell's Busy Buggy, which kind of remains mysterious what exactly that ride is. But it's going to be a themed ride experience. And then you have Peter Pan Neverland Adventure, which is also going to be a boat ride, which is going to be the main attraction of the Peter Pan portion of the area, or the Neverland portion for sure. So those are the names there. And we are reaching the last few announcements that have been coming out. The next one, we go to Silverwood for Boulder Beach. They are receiving a $15 million expansion that will include Eagle Hunt, which is the longest dueling water coaster in the United States, Salmon Run, which is a collection of 8 kiddie slides, and Rapids Grill, which is a new restaurant. Seems like a great addition for the water park, especially if the dueling water coaster. I imagine it'll be decently similar to Cheetah Chase, which is a lot of fun and even longer than it. So that is definitely going to be a really good addition for the park and probably their new signature water attraction. So definitely something to look forward to if you're in the area. And we also have Santa's Village, specifically the one in New Hampshire. We knew they were getting a coaster from Vekoma, and it is now confirmed that they are getting something called a model called Vekoma Family Coaster Horus, which is basically a lift hill Vekoma Junior coaster with the new gen track. There's one also going to Vedanta World in Mexico, which I mentioned earlier. So if you look at the construction for that, you can look at the layout there. It'll basically be the same thing. But that is the specific coaster model they're getting. It was kind of a question of might they get a Vekoma Family Boomerang or maybe even a launch coaster. But as it is, it's going to be basically Vekoma's new take on the junior coaster model. So that is that there. Then we have a new roller coaster will be coming to one of the several upcoming 7 parks in Saudi Arabia, this one in the Medina location. They will be getting a new coaster, and it's not expected to be one of the Axis coasters, but considering this chain is expected to be getting 2 Axis coasters, it definitely might be worth keeping an eye on what potentially they're getting, since they don't seem to be afraid of prototype coasters for sure, or unique coasters. So we'll have to see kind of where that goes from there. Next, we have Big Rivers Water Park. They are adding a Larson Drop Tower. They recently bought one, and that'll open in November of 2023. It is expected that this is actually extreme elevation from Santa's Village in Illinois. So if you've ridden that, this appears to be going over there. So that is a new addition coming. And then we also have Nickelodeon Universe, specifically the Mall of America location. They are adding 2 new rides here in the near future, including Boots Banana Swing, which is a Kitties Zamperla Happy Swing. And they're also adding Fly with Appa, which is an aerial carousel coming in 2024, specifically in the spring. There will also be the relocation of Bubble Guppy's Guppy Bubbler, which will go near the exit of Log Chute, which is the attraction you see at the very top. So especially for a park that's super landlocked, a lot of additions and moving around, good for them to find the space and to kind of shift things around in a way to add new rides all these years later for Nickelodeon Universe. So definitely nice that they were able to add some new attractions to a park that it's very hard to be able to do that. So that's very good. And then we have, as of today, actually, Maurer Rides has unveiled their new Spike Speed Chaser powered coaster concept. This is a concept that you can find on their YouTube channel. And what's interesting about it is that it includes an interactive shooting mechanic and scoring system, which is very interesting for a coaster that features inversions and on like an actual layout. So I wonder how that would be in practicality if one of these were to ever be built. How like sort of that would go. I do have some questions with it, but it does seem like a pretty neat concept. Of course, Manor has put out a lot of spike coaster concepts over the last sort of year or so. And it remains to be seen if there is a lot of interest in that. So we'll kind of have to see if this is something that ends up ever seeing the light of day. But certainly a very interesting and wacky concept, if nothing else. And one that I'd be intrigued in if it ever got picked up for sure. And then we have our last thing. This is not the most recent thing, but this is sort of in the rumor territory, if you could even call it that. I've listed it as tease or troll. Alton Towers may have teased RMC's involvement with Project Horizon. Now, where did this come from exactly? Merlin Backstage, which is Merlin Entertainment's YouTube channel, they had a massive Q&A session video, and they basically did one where they answered the viewers' questions, and one of them was, when is a Merlin park going to be getting a RMC design coaster? And then the person you see here basically was like, hey, can we tried to cut it away, basically saying he doesn't know if we can talk about what's on the horizon. And actually, if I take down the banners, it'll be more obvious. And then he sipped out of an RMC cup and gave a look towards the audience. Personally, I don't think that RMC is actually going to be involved with Project Horizon because this is an indoor coaster project, and there's only really so much RMC can do with that. Obviously, they've shown the capability now to do a potential dark ride coaster, or maybe even an RMC Wild Moose would fit within the parameters. But I don't think that's really what's going on. I think they're just fooling around, or maybe teasing for another project. Maybe there is some sort of RMC involvement with something else coming along. But I wouldn't buy into this that much. I think they were kind of fooling around a little bit. But you never know. It was worth kind of discussing, at least, in case you hadn't heard about it. And that is pretty much that. So, with that being said, that is the news. I'll kind of go through the comments, see if there was any notes that I kind of want to look at. And then we'll go into the quiz, which is actually from a previous episode. It was never used because we ran out of time. But we're going to use that one here. And then we'll go into the viewer call-in segment. So that's going to be the plan there. 2024, Year of the Boomerang, Year of the Spike, I think is the best way to... I've seen that one get thrown around a lot, and it absolutely is true. It's like crazy how many... I guess you can't quite say shuttle coasters because Dragster is not one, but how many coasters with spikes we're seeing? So it's pretty crazy. And actually, the other interesting thing about the Good Gravy is that not only are they going to have I just thought of this, they're going to have a family boomerang 3 hours east with Kings Island, but they're also at some point going to have family boomerang like about 3 hours south because the Nashville Zoo is supposed to get a dueling one at some point. So that also is kind of an interesting thing about their addition. I still think it'll work out, and it's really nice for the park, but something to note for sure. Great Escape was easily the biggest winner for you. Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like the ones that you can like actually feel good about, I think Great Escape is like, it's like they finally got a new coaster. Especially in a time where it was like they were losing one of their best ones. It's like, I mean, if they're losing Alpine Bobsled, which granted is hardly open, but still it's like, I mean, that's a massive loss for them, but they're replacing it with something that's arguably even better. So, I I would agree there. I think definitely that was kind of the surprise and the winner for sure. Though I mean, I do think Six Flags America's thing is actually going to do wonders for that park. With the new Steamtown area, I actually do think that's kind of a sneaky good addition there for sure. Steak Town. That a good callback. When I put out on my Instagram, if you follow my Instagram, I'll put out stories when something gets announced. I mentioned Steamtown, and I beautiful autocorrect changed it, and it ended up coming out as Steak Town. So yeah, a few people noticed that. But yeah, that is it. The Santa's Village coaster, it was confirmed via shipments. There were some shipments that it kind of documented what exactly it was, and that's how we know. Airtime Thrills Discord server, the news there is basically the thing that helps a lot. I do contribute to it, even though you might not see me post on there that much. I oftentimes will. I'm usually pretty busy, so I'll kind of, if I find something like in a forum or something, I'll kind of put it in the either drafting or in the reporter chat and be like, I found this, and it'll get reported on. So that's definitely one of the best places for news for sure. And that definitely is a major help at this point, because there's no way I could dedicate the time it would be needed to literally find all these things individually. But I do find some of it, so and put it and help with that too. So definitely good for sure. Enthusiast Roundtable is in Wyoming, and we have 2 people in chat from Wyoming. This is insane. This is just in Wyoming, I should say. This is insane. Absolutely crazy. But yeah. Oh, T3. Yes, I did have this on. So there was a lot of other news that I kind of skipped because I was mostly focusing on announcements. Thank you, Jackson, for bringing that up. T3 was put up for sale. So yes, that I completely forgot about that, but I did have it noted on here. But yes, it is up for sale. I don't know if any park's gonna buy it. At least I don't think one in North America will. I think potentially there's an international park out there that might look at it, buy it. They're probably gonna have to put some money into refurbishing it. Although if you're in Europe, it probably is kind of is easier, at least because Vekoma's not as far. So I would look for a park outside of America to buy that if it ends up happening. And I really wouldn't be too surprised if that happens. I still don't know the shape of the coaster though, so there's a lot of questions in terms of how plausible and realistic that is. But I wouldn't be stunned if someone ended up buying that. Would be curious if they keep or get new trains. Also would be kind of interesting. So yeah. I mean, yeah, it when you look at it, I was there in June, it seemed like if you didn't know it was if you didn't know that it had been announced that it was closing forever, you wouldn't have known. You would have just thought, oh, it's just kind of down for the day, because it looks fine when you're there. But there's a lot of things still kind of, I mean, who knows, there's condition of trains, there's a lot of other things that aren't super obvious when you look at it. So it's still something that we don't really know the full extent of, for sure. So yeah. Alrighty, but with that being said, I think I'm gonna move on to the quiz. I think I've almost an hour into the stream and we haven't gotten the viewer call-ins. Definitely should do that, actually. So we're gonna get into the quiz. I need to get this thing ready. Created by Frontier Coasters. I did some edits and stuff, but this is mostly from Frontier Coasters, so you can thank him for creating this. Really helps me out a lot. So with that being said, we're going to do the quiz, and that'll get started in a little bit. Also, here are the sort of rules: no RCDB, no Google, no ChatGPT. And we are ready to go in 3, 2, 1, go. So here's your first question. What is the oldest operating coaster in Canada? And I have a 60-second time limit. It's already gone. And you can put in the chat the answer. Alrighty, some answers are already coming in very quickly. Everyone is going for the same one. We'll see if that pays off. And the timer is about to run out. Alrighty, time is up, and indeed the correct answer is A, coaster at Peony Playland. So everyone who participated got it right, and so that is indeed the correct answer. Now I have to put in a lot of names. And I'll get that up in a bit. Alright, so Mason is on the board, Charged on PC is on the board, Civilian Satellite's on the board, History and Leisure's on the board, James is on the board, Amusementscape, which is formerly Western New York Coasters, so Lucan, welcome to the stream, former guest of course, and Jackson also got it. I think that's everybody, so we'll move on to our next one, which is, out of these manufacturers, which one is the oldest? Which manufacturer is the oldest out of the ones listed? Oh, I didn't start the timer. Well, now I did. So I guess you guys have a few more extra seconds than what was supposed to be, but that's fine. Is it Chance Rides, Intamin, Golden Horse, or Wisdom Rides? And we are a little over halfway for the timer, so get those answers in. And the timer is up. And the correct answer is, if I can get it, A, Chance Rides. So that is the correct answer. So with that being said, Charged on PC now has 2 points. Mason has 2. Civilian Satellite has 2. Amusementscape has 2. And Jackson has 2. So Chance Rides is the correct answer to that question. So we'll be moving on to question number 3, which is, who helped design the Texas Cyclone at the former Six Flags Astro World? So who out of these people listed helped design Texas Cyclone? Alrighty, answers are coming in, and the clock is getting closer to going out. So yeah, it's first answer only for the quiz. Alrighty. Let me just make sure, actually. And then, so that is it. I'm actually just trying to make sure because did I input anything too early? Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, no. Alright, no, it's all good. Alrighty, so the correct answer is A, Dawn Roster. So A is the correct answer. So now that means, so Mason got that right because that was the original answer. That he put down. Charged on PC got it. Jackson got it. James got it. Civilian Satellite got it. And Amusementscape got it. So already doing pretty well for the first 3 questions. Next, we have our next question, which is, which of these manufacturers has never made a roller coaster? And the timer has begun. So which out of these listed manufacturers has never made a roller coaster? Alrighty, some answers coming in right out of the gate. And everyone going with the same answer. An interesting move, but I guess for those in the lead, it makes sense to do that, or who share a lead. It definitely is a good defensive move, or maybe you all have the right answer. I guess we'll see which one it is. Alrighty, that is the timer. So we have and so everyone pretty much went for the same answer. And y'all were right. KMG Rides has never made a roller coaster. So that is indeed the correct answer. Alrighty, we'll move on to our next question, which is, which country is Vertigorama the only Intamin double roller coaster located in? That is our next question. Alrighty. Wow. Everyone is. I think that's the strategy. I think I don't know if we'll see, but it's like everyone's going with the same one again. Okay, now we have some variation. But we are over halfway through the time limit, so we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, so the correct answer is indeed C, Argentina. So Mason, Amusementscape, along with Jackson, Civilian Satellite, History and Leisure all got that one right. So that is the correct answer. Alrighty, here's the next one. And that is, which IP has never officially been used for a rides theme? This is one of the ones I did mess with a little bit. Which one of these has never been used for a rides theme? And everyone again is going with the same one. We are over halfway through, so get your answers in if you haven't already. Alrighty. Alrighty, that is the timer. And with that being said, the correct answer is C. Five Nights at Freddy's has never been used as officially for a ride's theme. There was a ride concept that did use it. There was a dark ride concept years ago that did actually use Five Nights at Freddy's, but was never actually built as a ride. So that is indeed the correct answer. Pretty surprising that something like John Wick would have a ride theme to it, but if you know John Wick's open contract, there you go. So the other two, not super surprising. So there is your answer. Yeah. Tom and Jerry, I think, actually has a few in different places, or has had a few. And then, yeah, Thorpe Park is Angry Birds. So there you go. So that's the correct answer. We'll move on to our next question, which is the oldest wooden coaster still in operation out of these four? Hopefully this one will be a little trickier. So it wasn't... the Five Nights at Freddy's Dark Ride wasn't specifically supposed to go anywhere. It was just, I'd like to say Sally Dark Rides just kind of made like a concept, like, of what it would look like. It actually seemed pretty sick, but nobody picked it up. So, it's just kind of sitting around. But, an interesting bit of history there. Alrighty, and now the answers are a little different, so this should be interesting. And that is the time, so we have run out of time here to answer that. So the correct answer here is A, Skyliner. Amusementscape got it in. I know there's a bit of a delay, so I will allow it. But that was cutting it close. But yes, Skyliner is indeed the correct answer. So, Amusementscape, Jackson, and Charged on PC got that right. So, that is indeed the correct answer. We're moving on to question 8, which is, which of these Vekoma coasters opened first? And hopefully, and obviously, it's not the one in the picture. So, timer starts now. Focusing on a script, A, no issue there. I respect it. But which out of these was the first to open? Alrighty, let's see. Oh, and that is the timer, so that just hit. And with that being said, the correct answer is indeed D, Tron Light Cycle Power Run, is the correct answer. That was the one that opened first out of this bunch. So there you have it. We'll move on to question number 9, which is, which of these coasters is the newest to open? So that is your question, and the timer has begun. So answer away. And by the way, for the scoreboard, Jackson has 8, so far 8 for 8 thus far. Amusementscape has 7, Civilian Satellite has 7, Charged on PC has 7, Mason has 6, History and Leisure has 6, and James has 4. So that is the scoreboard as of right now. Alrighty, let's see. And timer is running down. And that will seal it. So the correct answer is C, Thunderbolt at Six Flags New England. That is indeed the correct answer. So that is it. So that is C. So that is indeed the correct answer there. So next we'll move on to our final question, and Jackson is in the lead with 9 points. So, well, our final question of the quiz, which is outside of the 2 bonus questions, which we'll do also, but which coaster type has Intamin never created? So out of these, which type has Intamin never created? Alrighty, so last 15 seconds to answer this one. And which, by the way, for this question, like, what has Intamin not done is well, it's some coaster manufacturers, it's like, oh, what models have they done? Like, what have they created? Intamin's more like, what have they not created? And the correct answer to that is a flying coaster. They've never done that. And a lot of y'all got it right, but Jackson did get it right, a perfect 10 for 10. So Jackson is our winner for the quiz for today's episode. But a lot of really good scores here for sure. Amusementscape, Charged on PC, Civilian Satellite were tied for second with 8 points, and History and Leisure was third with 7. So good game to everybody. There are 2 tiebreaker questions, which we'll run through just for bonus questions. So no real points here at stake, I guess, but here you go. These are a little more difficult. Which of these manufacturers has never made a Ferris wheel? That is the next question. Alrighty. And by the way, this one, I will just say I would have not known. This is a really good question from, this was a really good question because I would have had no way of knowing this one. So I'll say that straight off the bat. Wow, everyone's going with C. But is that actually going to pay off this time? Alrighty. And we'll go to our correct answer. Time has run out. The correct answer is actually D. It is Mock Rides. They have never made a Ferris wheel. Gerstlauer actually has. You can look it up. Gerstlauer Ferris wheel, and something will come up. So, they have made giant wheels, and so they actually have made some Ferris wheels, believe it or not. So, like I said, you can look it up. Gerstlauer does have some. So, there you go. And then we have our second bonus question, which was the most recent steel bobsled coaster to open? Which was the most recent steel bobsled coaster to open? I'll make the time. Mock Rides, they've made everything. So it's another one where it's like, what have they not made? Apparently Ferris wheels. Which is pretty crazy, to be honest. Already a lot more variety coming in here for this last one. Already last 20 seconds, and this is the last question of the quiz, which will lead us into our viewer call-ins. For anyone who is interested in doing that after the quiz ends, or some of you are actually already in here, you'll go through the StreamYard link, which is pinned at the top of the chat and also in the description. That's how you can join. So that'll be that. Timer is up. So the correct answer for this question is actually A. Trace du Hora. I probably completely butchered that. At Park Asterix is your most recent steel bobsled coaster to open. And so Charged on PC, History and Leisure, and Amusementscape are the ones who got that correct there. So congrats. Flying Turns was a bit of a deceiving answer because it is the most recent bobsled coaster opened. It's just not steel. And then actually Reptilian, I believe, is pretty recent. Like there was a reason I put it on there besides like the re-theme. I think it's actually one of the more recent ones, but it is a newer one as well. So there you go. I guess, yeah, if you wanted to count the bonus questions, yes, Charged on PC, you would have tied. So, yep, there you go. If you want to go as co-winners, you can do that. But that'll wrap it up for the quiz. Great job to everyone who participated. Huge thanks once again to Frontier Coasters for making the quiz. And we will move on to our viewer call-ins. And before we do that, like I said, I've kind of explained how that works. You're going to go, if you're interested in doing a viewer call-in, basically what you're going to do is you're going to go into StreamYard. I have the link up pinned in the top of the chat, also in the description. But what I'm going to have you do is once I bring you on, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. You can plug your socials, plug your channel, and introduce yourself. And then I'll ask you about the 2 to 3 most intriguing announcements that happened over the course of like the last month or so, and your thoughts on it. So that's going to be the plan there. And that being said, Mason, you were the first one who was in here, so I'm going to bring you on first. So I'm just going to make sure that you're ready in private chat. And then we'll be good to go. Alrighty. So, with that being said, I will be bringing Mason on. And Mason, if you could introduce yourself, that would be absolutely fantastic. Oh, also, if you're talking, you're muted. I should mention that.
Oh,
there we
I'm
go.
so sorry.
You're good.
Okay, so hello guys, my name is Mason. I used to be the Coaster Bros back in like October or something. We did that video of Cedar Point, but then I became Mason's Geo World, and then I became Mason's Mappings, and then I made a new channel called Mason's Coasters, which I'm gonna make some videos on. And yeah, and go subscribe to me.
Alrighty, so out of the announcements we talked about today, which were the 2 to 3 that interested you the most?
I would say the I'd say the new theme park, American Heartland, because well, it's a new theme park coming to Oklahoma, of course. So that's gonna be great. Oklahoma really only has like one theme park. You have some other roller coasters, but they're either like FPS spinners or defunct, or they're kiddie coasters.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be if it ends up being built, it would be an absolutely amazing fit for the state, for the region. I mean, it would be the park really that is sort of deserved for that area for sure. So I can definitely get the excitement for that.
I'm just curious, let's stop comparing it to Friendship City. It's actually way closer to Silver Dollar City, actually. So I wonder if there's gonna be any competition.
I'm sure if it gets built, they'll be very much um, competing with each other. It is kind of funny that they had a Thunderhead clone in the concept art. That is pretty interesting there, also considering the Hershon ties with Dollywood.
The other intriguing one was Bobcat at Great Escape. That is very interesting. I I mean, I thought Six Flags was going to get rid of Alpine Bobsled. It just leave that space empty. I thought they were going to like in a place it was maybe like a Giga Discovery or something. But I guess they're adding a brand new what's it called? A Gravity Group family coaster, which I think would be great here. I think it's gonna really get. I think it's actually gonna be their second best roller coaster behind Comet. I know that's surprising, but Steaming Demon it looks pretty bad, and Flashback is just a Vekoma Boomerang, and then have and then the other two are they have a kiddie coaster, but then that's about it.
Yeah, no, Bobcat definitely does seem like it's perfect fit for the park. I agree with your idea that it would probably be the number 2 coaster there, just kind of compared to the rest of what they have. Definitely seems like that would probably be its place. I've even seen some people throw it around as saying it might be the best one there, but we'd have to wait and see on that.
I
But
mean,
yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
it's just I this is something I've thought for like a long time, but why does the Great Escape of all parks have a hotel? You know,
I believe the resort, I think it's kind of existed as such for a while, so that's sort of why it's always been a little bit of an odd sort of place for to be a Six Flags park. It's always been a little more of a resort, so I believe that's sort of the. Um, I don't know how long it's been like that, but I think it's been like that for a while.
the well, the other intriguing one was the brand new flume coming over Texas, and I think what a lot of people are forgetting is that Ella Solardero was the first ever log flume, and I feel like they're kind of ruining the history of it by revamping it. I would have, if I were CEO of Six Flags, I would just keep it the exact same, and I would have just given a little modernization, but I'd pretty much keep it the same. I wouldn't make it bigger because it's really a classic ride, and I think they're kind of ruining it.
I actually do agree with that in a to a certain degree. The I like I said, I visited over Texas for the first time last summer. It was unfortunately not open when I went, and I know downtime has been a big issue for the ride. So that's kind of more why I'm okay with the new revamp and extension, because I'm like, if it'll at least keep it operational, then I'm down with it. But it's something where like, yeah, in terms of like the integrity of it, since it was the original log flume, it definitely hurts more than a little bit. So I definitely agree with that. But I like I said, I just kind of came to accept it because I'm like, if it's more reliable, it'll definitely be a worthwhile investment and sort of change to do.
I can kind of see that, but if I were Six Flags and I had to get rid of it, then I would have just got rid of La Vibora, which is right next to it, maybe the Larson Loop, and I would have put it in a solid B&M dive or wing coaster. That's something the park really needs.
Yeah, I mean, a new throwing coaster for that park would definitely be a nice thing to see there for sure.
But I still like, aren't they like, oh, wait, okay. Another something interesting, um, I I watched this video by Attraction Ideas. It was about Universal making a DC land, and he brought up a good point in that video. If you guys have seen it, he said the DC rights for Six Flags are gonna expire by like 2028. That's just a rumor, and if that happens, then if they don't make a deal, then they'll have to re-theme all the rides. Because Six Flags has so many rides themed to DC, they'll run out of money doing it and go bankrupt.
I think they'll figure some sort of deal out because I think, I mean, I don't think you would see them theming up all these rides still to DC if they were just gonna be like, oh, we're not gonna renew it, we're not gonna have a deal in place. I'm not familiar with that, so that's interesting if they do have a contract running out in 2028. But I would assume they're gonna work out a deal because I mean, that would be like the amount of work they'd have to untheme their rides, even if like some of the theming is pretty bare bones. That would be a lot of effort and a lot of money going into that. So I think they will renew it some way somehow.
Yeah. Okay. So at Six Flags Great Adventure, I am probably the only person that wished they got a clone of Let Coaster.
I know for Great Adventure, I think a lot of people would have loved to have seen that, but I'm pretty happy with what they got. It's just capacity is the main concern.
I I I personally am not a big fan of it. I mean, it's cool, the first major new gen Vekoma, but everyone forgets about Tron and Big Bear Mountain, but that's a family coaster. Everyone forgets about Tron, so yeah. And I don't know. I would have preferred to see one of their other models that are like Intamin Blitz.
Yeah, there's some aspects of it that I'm kind of like, I don't know if it's the best edition for them, but I'm still glad to see it at the end of the day. So that's kind of where I'm at with this, for sure. If there's any last things you want to mention, then you can go for it. But yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna say one more thing. I have stuff to go to, but so personally, I would have what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I would have given for the 2024 season. I would have rather given Kings Island, not the Snoopy's soapbox racers, but I would have rather given Son of Beast too.
A lot of people would love to see that. I know that for sure.
RMC, by the way, and they're gonna make RMC put a vertical loop on it.
I don't know.
Not the vertical lift. I mean a vertical loop.
Yeah, that would. I mean, that's one of those things where it's like sort of a dream project. It's definitely something a ton of people would like to see. Don't know if we're ever gonna see it, but I know that like it would be like it would bring a lot of hype. That's for sure.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I would go on more, but I got stuff to go to. So, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, but mostly the Coaster channel because you're probably not interested in geography. So, yeah.
Alrighty, well, oh my bad, sorry.
No, you go.
Well, thank you, Mason, for coming on. Appreciated your insight into the different announcements and your thoughts. And thank you so much for coming on. And I'll see you next time, whenever that is.
All right. Thanks for having me on. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.
Alrighty. So, obviously, some announcements there. Definitely, the Great Adventure one there, I would definitely say that I'm excited for it, but yeah, I have some skepticism with the potential capacity problems of Flash, so that for sure. And then, I mean, we went through quite a few other ones, but American Heartland is a very, if it happens, very interesting park. Really, really interesting what it could do if it ends up going through as well. So, with that being said, Jackson was next, so I will make sure in private chat that we're good to go. Already perfect. So with that being said, I'll be bringing on Jackson. And Jackson, if you could introduce yourself, that would be absolutely fantastic.
What's going on, guys? It is Jackson. I have a Instagram channel called Jackson Loves Roller Coasters. I kind of just like posting about different random coasters that I enjoy, and also whenever I go on trips or whatever, I just like doing trip reports and stuff like that. So if you want to see more of that, I'm all on there.
Awesome. And so awesome to have you here. I know you've been watching the channel for a while. We've definitely DM'd back and forth on Insta, so awesome to see you here for sure. And with that being said, out of the announcements that happened, what were the 2 to 3 that interested you the most, and why?
So one of the main ones I was really interested in was the Six Flags America land renovation. I'm really excited that Six Flags America is renovating that whole area. I think the Zamperla Nebulas is going to be a great addition for the park because I don't think the park has too much in terms of flat rides. So getting a new flat ride, especially for that area, is going to cater a lot towards the families, which is going to be really nice. But I was more excited for the Mind Eraser renovation since, I mean, I've heard Mind Eraser is one of the worst SLCs that Vekoma has made, so I'm very excited to see them get the train renovation. Especially because I believe the last one that happened was, I think, either Batman the Ride at Six Flags Mexico or Riddler Revenge at New England. I think was one of the last ones that got it, so I'm happy to see that they're coming back. So it makes me very hopeful that Kong will get it next. That's my hope.
Yeah, for sure. As a Discovery Kingdom home parker, I mean, definitely that is the dream there for sure, and that definitely is a ride that could use it. So that is obviously good to see for that reason, and I believe Mexico was the last one that got it. I believe they got theirs earlier this year, I'd like to say. So actually pretty recently, but they didn't really mention it, so it wasn't really noticed all that much, but they did get that. So definitely a good one there for sure.
And then I'd say another one that was really interesting. I mean, even though I've heard a lot of people are not the biggest fan of it, I personally think it's going to be a great addition for the park, is the Super Boomerang at Great Adventure. I'm just happy that Six Flags is going back to Vekoma again, that they're working with them again to get a next-gen Vekoma in the U.S. Because I know we had Circuit Breaker. I don't know whenever that's going to open, but I'm happy to see that we're finally getting some more Vekomas, like newer coasters in the U.S. So, but yeah, the Super Boomerang is going to be pretty bad for capacity, which is a little bit frustrating. I do wish that they could have probably went for something like a Bermuda Blitz or a Firestorm or a Shockwave. I would have loved to see that at Great Adventure because I felt like it would be better for capacity, and then two, it would also be a really nice addition. I still think the Super Boomerang is going to be really nice in terms of like its elements, its launches, and then also the train design should be really nice. But I feel like, capacity might be the one bad thing with it. So that's something that doesn't make me too excited for if I ever do visit Great Adventure. I might just have to hit that up first. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's the Super Boomerang, like as a ride experience, as for what that's going to provide to the park. I think it's fantastic. I think, and as you said, bringing Six Flags working with Vekoma for major new generation coasters is definitely awesome to see. So I really like those aspects of it. It's just, the capacity is going to be kind of a nightmare. We kind of know that already. It is what it is. And that is going to be the sort of one question, but as a ride, it's going to be really good, and definitely something that the park needed, and it's people have compared it. Some elements are similar to what used to be on Batman and Robin the Chiller too,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's kind of like it fits in nicely with that as well. I wish they could have. My only thing is I wish they could have somehow tied that back to Batman and Robin the Chiller, but
Yeah,
probably didn't make
have
a
been
lot
cool.
of
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, for sure.
And then lastly, I mean, I gotta throw in Great Escape because I mean, it's amazing seeing the park finally get a new coaster after such a long time. Because I think the last coaster they got was, I don't know if it was Canyon Blaster or if it was the relocated Boomerang, but I mean, them finally getting a new coaster that's going to appeal to the families is going to be really nice, especially since it's the Gravity Group, and their family wooden coasters are really good. I think this one is it the clone of the one at Wallaby Ronalps?
It's so they use timber a lot in the promos. It has, I think, the first half of the layout. I heard it was described as basically the same, and then
Okay.
the second part of it is it deviates a little bit. So it is technically a custom layout, but it's very similar to timber, which I've heard
Okay.
great things about. So that's
Okay.
definitely not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's going to be nice for the families, and also will be nice for the enthusiasts as well. Because I mean, those have typically have good airtime. They look like they have pretty good laterals, and the trains are comfortable. So it should be a great addition for Great Escape. So I'm hoping that this can then lead to more investments in the park later on. But yeah, Six Flags has really been killing it this year. So with their 2024 announcements, so I'm really happy with the chain right now.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, I would say I've been impressed by the additions coming this year. I think we've kind of known for a few months they were going to pull out some stuff that was interesting. Just kind of with rumors and other things going along. It's like, okay, I think people are sleeping on Six Flags. They're going to pull out some interesting announcements, and they certainly did. And some ones that are like so needed and are really a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. So very, very exciting, and I'm excited for what's coming in 2025 because it's supposed to be even bigger of a year with investments.
yeah.
So that's going to be exciting for sure.
For sure. But yeah, that's pretty much all the announcements I was really like excited for. I will throw in a quick mention for Iron Menace because the dive coaster looks really good, especially with the whole layout. But besides that, yeah.
For sure. No, I agree. As a sort of certified, I don't know if dive coaster hater is the right word, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. But I will admit that seeing Iron Menace's layout, I'm like, okay, that, to be fair, it's a really nice layout for a dive coaster.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely agree with that there. So if you have any sort of last thoughts you want to provide, the floor is yours, and I'll give you the time to do that.
To be honest, not really. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed getting to talk about the recent announcements and everything. So yeah.
Alrighty, and thank you so much for coming on, Jackson. Loved hearing your insight on the announcements, specifically with Six Flags. And they got an exciting future, so really exciting
Yeah.
to talk about that. And thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Have a great night, Carrick.
You too. Thank you. Alrighty, so huge thanks to Jackson for coming on. Obviously, like I said, talking about the Six Flags announcements, some pretty exciting stuff there. And with that being said, we will be moving on to our next guest, which is actually Lucan from Amusement Escape. So I will make sure in chat that you're ready to go. Alrighty. And if I'm not mistaken, have you made a video on the Six Flags announcements? I've been a little behind, so if you have, then I missed out on that, but I'll just mention that. But with that being said, I'll be bringing Lucan on. So Lucan, probably need no introduction, but I'll ask you to do it anyways. If you can introduce
Hey
yourself,
guys.
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I've been you guys might know me as WMY Coasters. I've now shifted the brand to Amusementscape, and for some reason I can't get the logo or my account on for it. I have like a connected account on YouTube, and it's like showing my like personal YT thing. So whatever. But yeah, I'm Amusementscape. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that fun stuff. If you want to check it out, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate it.
For sure, and obviously previous guest of the stream, so awesome to have you back here. And with that being said, out of the announcements we got, which 2 to 3 were the ones that interested you the most?
I think for me, by default, it has to be a Bobcat at Great Escape. I know you were already talking about that, but it's only about 3.5 hours from where I live. So, and that park is actually a sneaky good park. I would put it. I might even have it above Darien Lake to some extent. I think they take care of it a lot better. Everything flows pretty nicely. It doesn't really feel like there's some elements of a Six Flags park to it, but for the most part, it's kind of feels more of it's like if you took Six Flags and Knoebels and put them together, it's like a really weird. I don't know. It's kind of been my logic with that. That's kind of how the park feels. And I think another wooden coaster is really nice. I wasn't a big fan of Alpine Bobsled. I only did it once. That wasn't open this year when I went because it was like downpouring. But I'm really excited for Bobcat. I think it could be the best coaster in the park. I like Comet a lot, but I really like Ejector Airtime, and that's what those family gravity groups tend to do.
Yeah, for sure. So, and especially with you being, as you said, like 3.5 hours away, obviously a decent distance, but not unmanageable. So definitely you can check that out, and it's going to be definitely a really, as we've said, great fit for that park. And singing the praises of Great Escape is good to hear for sure. Because I've heard similar opinions from those who have been there that it's actually a very nice park. It's just, pretty small compared to a lot of the other ones. So
yeah, don't skip on Adirondack Outlaw if you go. I don't think the ride's like I really like the ride. I mean, I've heard high praise for the one at St. Louis as well, but the views on that are just amazing when you sit up there while they load. It's like it's right on the edge of the Adirondack Mountains. It is so cool. I really recommend doing that if you guys ever make it out there.
Yeah, the views I can imagine are probably pretty amazing. So I definitely a good tip there. What other announcements interested you?
The funny thing is about this year. I mean, I guess that you could count Top Thrill too. But there hasn't been that one marquee announcement. But I think under the radar, I liked the Ultra Surf at over Georgia. I think I was just actually typing up some. I'm doing not quite like an analysis video because there's been so many of those on YouTube. But I'm talking about a little bit comparisons between Cedar Fair and Six Flags. Sorry. And I think the Ultra Surf could be pretty good. I mean, that airtime hill, I'm sure will provide good airtime. The visuals are gonna be fun, and I don't know how the spinning is gonna work, but maybe that could be good. That actually checks off a lot of boxes at that park. I mean, the multi-launch, a spinning coaster. Yeah, that's gonna be good. And I think over Georgia is already a pretty loaded park from like top to bottom. I wasn't a big fan of the park in general, but I think the ride lineup from top to bottom was one of the best in the Six Flags chain for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to nearly the Six Flags parks that you have. I've only been to, I guess, 5 at this point, but
I think I've only been to 6.
So, okay. I guess I'm getting closer.
Yeah. In terms of, the biggest one I've been to is Great Adventure, and I've been to New England and stuff. So, I mean, I think the way it was run, I was pretty disappointed about that. Like, I don't know. I feel like when you go to a park and everything goes down, and like every time you try to ride something, or like it's just like, I know things happen, but like it's just not a good reflection on the park. But like it seems like that makes a lot of sense that they're investing in that park because Atlanta is huge, and there's a huge audience that can exploit there. And I think even though I just went there, I'll be able to get 4 new credits if I go back there in like late 2024. I missed the kiddie coaster, but
same. It was down.
Yeah, it was down. Yeah, apparently that's kind of frequent.
Yeah.
I saw it open. It had a long line though. I'm like, I could have bought like a one shot or something for like $10. I was like, I just rather do like Goliath or something again.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. It was like it never opened the day I was there.
Yeah, I've heard like there's like really really strict like water if there's any rain like if in a day or something it can't open. I've heard.
Oh yeah, I think it sprinkled like the day before or something. That might make sense.
I think it's because like they said I heard drive tires of the lift hill, but
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
makes sense.
Yeah, I'd rather go ride Twisted Cyclone Goliath or even Air Force One because those rides are all probably a lot better than waiting 40 minutes for a kiddie coaster and feeling bad about yourself while doing it.
Yeah, I was only gonna do it if it's like the line's like a few cycles at most. I'll do it. Otherwise, it's like I'm not. I don't.
Yeah,
do
I
kiddie
get
rides.
that. Yeah, I with most kiddie coasters, I think a lot of people would tend to agree. I mean, there are some hardcore people like I. I was considering like I said, I was considering paying like $10 to get it because I know if I ever go back there, I'm gonna want to get it, but you know, sometimes it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I had a better time at Over Georgia, but it rides didn't break down so much. But I mean, operations were pretty slow, but it was like completely dead. So it was like
Yeah,
okay. So I didn't really have any issues.
yeah. I was there on
Um,
the 4th of July, and I was like, if you're not doing good on the
oh
4th of July, but even it wasn't that busy, but if you're not running on all cylinders on the 4th of July, I don't want to see what you're like during like a down day.
yeah, that would definitely not be good. For sure.
Hopefully they can go the route of like Fiesta Texas. I remember I think El Toro Ryan went there in 2019 and he said like talking about how bad the park was and how bad it's being run. And now it seems like everyone loves that park now. If they just go the same route with Over Georgia, I mean, it makes sense. They're both growing metro areas and stuff. So I would love to see that because I think that park has got a lot of potential for sure.
For sure. And then I'll be going back to the Ultra Surf. That'll definitely fill in very nicely. As you said, fills in a lot of lineup holes. The only thing I was kind of thinking about this. I think you do get wet on the Ultra Surf. Which I'm kind of like a multi-launch spinning coaster where you get wet.
It's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff
That's-
going on there for sure.
That's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know that everyone's gonna be able to get on board with that, but I mean, it sounds cool. So
Yeah.
and oh yeah, it'll have a nice airtime hill too on top.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I actually am very curious
Very
to check it out.
gimmicky, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
The funniest thing I was just looking at this. It'll actually be the fastest new coaster coming to a Six Flags park. It's advertised at 60 and the Super Boomerang's advertised at 59. So I just thought that was funny.
Wow. I don't. We'll see if it actually hits the 60 that
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
claiming.
it does have a pretty, I mean, I guess wide or long footprint. I mean, it says 144 feet tall for the top point of the spike. Like I don't think you'll get up there, but it's gonna be a lot bigger than like I feel like on paper you'd think it'd be.
Oh yeah, no. I don't know how I saw Aquaman Power Wave when I was at Over Texas and do it. But when you were there in person, it's like, oh wow, this thing's actually
Huge,
like
yeah.
pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the track's huge, but it's like, oh man, this is actually a pretty tall ride. I think it's similar height. So once you see it in person, it's gonna be like, oh wow, this is and actually at Over Georgia, I'm trying to think. I think only like Goliath is taller.
That might be one of the tallest in the park.
It would be one of the tallest coasters
And
in
if
the
I'm not
park.
mistaken, from I remember, like there's like that hill, and it's gonna be like kind of high, like elevated
Yep.
pretty high, so everyone will be able to see it.
Yep, exactly. So that is kind of funny how it is gonna probably be one of the more dominating coasters in the skyline.
Which is fun. It's just funny because it might only be like for some people, they might say it's like the 6th or 7th best coaster in the lineup.
Yeah, no, you're probably right there, but that is really interesting to think about now that you bring it up.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anything else you wanted to talk about?
something I've been thinking about a lot lately, coaster wise. I feel like 2024 will almost be like, by no means is 2024 going to be a bad year in America at all or in the world at all. Because I mean, I think Voltron's going to be a very, very good coaster, and Exodus could be very well one of the best like mock coasters ever. It could be the best mock hyper for all I know. But I think this like even like the whole Six Flags thing people have been talking about. I think 2025 overall is going to be such like a massive year for the industry with Epic Universe, the not Fast and Furious. What Fast and
Actually,
Furious?
we don't know yet what year that is.
Yeah.
I mean that's a big swing because it's like, might that be a 2020? I would probably lean towards it's probably 2025, but
Yeah.
Universal can build things up quick, so we'll see.
I mean, yeah, that ride. That's actually crazy if that opens in the same year as Epic Universe. That would just be a nuts. And then they have the whole aren't they doing a park in Texas too? If I'm not mistaken.
Does that open in 25? Yeah, Frisco.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's 25, but it is. I think you're right, though. I think it is coming in 25.
Yeah, and I think from what I've heard about Six Flags, I mean, it's obviously all just rumors and stuff at this point. We just got off of like 24 and stuff. I mean, that might not even be complete yet, but I've heard they've been looking at Intamin multi launches. I mean, I obviously don't have anything to back that up, but I've heard they were interested in something like that for Great Adventure and Fiesta, which would honestly that'd be amazing. I think those. I mean, Velocicoaster is obviously a great example to show off what they can do, especially for clients at IAPA and stuff. So if Six Flags does anything like that in terms of like upper tier coasters, that'd be awesome. And then who knows what Cedar Fair is gonna do? And then they get the whole BG Dub thing, where people are still like, the whole 220-foot height waiver thing. We'll see where that goes. And I just think it's going to be such like a huge, it could be like the second coming of like 2018. I remember how like excited everybody was for that. And like, I think people like are getting like a lot of this stuff is awesome. Like new Vekoma and stuff coming into the United States. But I think, I think with I don't know, I feel like this is like, we're starting to finally get away from the whole like conservative corporate, like from the whole pandemic and all the other economic issues 3 4 5 maybe 5 years I guess from 2025. And I think this is when we're going to start to see some of these like all this new stuff that we've been seeing over the past 10 years finally start to get into America. I mean, there's just been so much. Like Six Flags just did they did a Vekoma, Intamin, and Gravity Group, which is like something that you never would have heard of 5 years ago. Would have been like 3 free spins and a Raptor or something. Which is
SNS
cool,
and
like,
RMC, not the ones you mentioned. So.
I think the one thing that they have on Cedar Fair right now is that they're pretty much working with everybody, and like they might like with Skyline, they might never do another coaster with them. Like who knows? They might never. They might never go back to Gravity Group. I mean, I certainly hope they do, but they might not. I mean, they might pull out another freaking B&M. They just got one of those, so we'll have to see for sure. It's gonna be fun the next few years. Especially Six Flags. I don't know, Six Flags always just fascinates me for sure.
Yeah, I think there are a lot. Especially now, they're a lot less predictable than Cedar Fair. Cedar Fair, I mean, to be fair, Cedar Fair did just whip out. They did get a new gen Vekoma. I mean, granted, small scale, but they did get one.
Yeah.
Or they are getting one, and they did do the Zamperla dragster thing. So
Yeah.
But I think Six Flags is kind of the one I'm more intrigued in for sure. Especially it's interesting. Next year's gonna be like, who knows what we're gonna see, because it's like some people think that pretty much all the parks that didn't get something this year are gonna get something. The other ones that did, I don't really believe that.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I think
Fiesta's getting something next year.
They love Fiesta, and I think they want to make that park the premier park, and a lot of people already think it is, and I think they're just gonna keep explaining like the Austin, I mean, it's in a freaking phenomenal area if you're trying to attract new families. And Seabert's probably on top of he's on top of like the coaster lore and stuff, so he knows what's gonna get like all this media hype and stuff.
I also think there's a part of him, like, kind of, everyone kind of jokingly, he kind of over-teased what they got this year. I think he did it for a reason. I think he did it for a reason. I think he kind of, Kings Island kind of did this before they got Orion. They, like, overhyped the heck out of, I think, what was, like, a kitty edition or something. And, of course, well, the next year they got Orion. I kind of feel like something similar is kind of going on. Not saying that Fiesta Texas is getting a Giga. I'm not saying that. But they're going to get something big next year.
Yeah, something good's going to come. And then, like, Great Adventure, I think the thing they call themselves the ultimate thrill park now. So if like if they're setting that standard, I mean, they like I think they're probably still top 5 in coaster lineups, but I think Hershey's got them to. I think Wildcats Revenge and Skyrush for me is just too much for them to compete with. But if they throw in like an Intamin multi-launch or a Conda type ride or whatever, they're right back in it. And the sewer boomerangs, like, you know, the appetizer and stuff, that's a pretty good appetizer for sure.
If they were to go like do something, which we'll see. I'm a little I think so, I've heard that possibility get brought. I know there's been like huge projects and plans for Great Adventure.
Great Adventure is fun. I think their community, I mean, they like to hype up stuff a lot, which is, you know, it's good and bad to some extent, because I feel like that was part of the decision to get the Super Boomerang in, because everyone, if they came out and said we weren't building a coaster and they're for their 50th anniversary, like it looked like that was going to happen when they said that the Super Boomerang was purchased late in the game. But I don't know.
It was probably for a Chinese park. That's kind of because the color scheme matches like almost exactly with the one that was built for the park in for the Phantom Wild Park that just opened. I'm kind of like,
now for sure
it probably was a coaster that I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's great that they you know, got something. I think that's excellent. But I think it seems pretty obvious to a lot of people kind of saw the same thing. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, this was a canceled project that they picked up, but that's fine. I mean,
I feel like they definitely got some money off there, but I think it's gonna be a great ride. When I first saw that that whole thing come out, I'm like, why don't we just clone those and replace the old boomerangs with them?
So when Six Flags New England does that to replace their 2 boomerangs, I've thrown that idea out. I'm like, please do it for the memes.
Or a Wild Moose would be funny, because that'd be next to Wicked Cyclone, which is kind of
that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. One or the other. I mean, I would take either one.
For sure. Well, alrighty. So I think we kind of went through everything there. So I'll kind of like wrap it up, but if you have any last things you want to say, go for it, and then I'll close out the viewer call-ins. But once again, great to have you on, Lucan, and really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's always fun coming on here. I'd love to do another coaster time sometime. I mean, it's probably been like at least 2 years since
I think it's been over 2 years.
While, yeah. Yeah, that'd be fun to do that again for sure. But yeah, these are always fun. I love listening to like coaster podcasts and live streams and stuff. They're always fun, and it's fun interacting with the chat and stuff. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Carrick, and I hope you have a good night.
You too, and best of luck in fantasy.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I'll see you, man.
Yep, see you around. Alrighty, so that's gonna do it for our viewer call-in. Huge thanks to Lucan for coming back on, talking also like a lot about Six Flags, Great Adventure over Georgia, Great Escape, and a lot to look forward to this year, and potentially next year. Yeah, I do agree that next year could be we could be seeing some wild stuff next year. So. Definitely agree with that. So, with that being said, that's gonna bring us to the end of the stream. I'll do final Q&A. Any last questions you have? Also should once again put on the banner that I went to Oaks Amusement Park for anyone who joined late. And Enchanted Forest for the first time recently. Already kind of talked about Ice Mountain Bobsled. And yeah, so Ice Mountain Bobsled and Adrenaline Peak we already talked about, and Big Timber Log Ride. But anything else, I'll answer any other questions, and that'll pretty much wrap this up. See you around, says the guy who lives 3 time zones away. In the group chat. Yep. That's true. Hey, to be fair, I am I've at least met up with some enthusiasts from like pretty far. So all is good. But I guess before we got like if questions are a little slow here for a little bit, I'll kind of mention a few things that I mentioned earlier. So, as you could probably see from the setup, I moved into another house. That's kind of been why it's been a little quiet. And content will probably be a little slow for this month mostly because there's an opportunity that presented itself that is coming in a few weeks, and I kind of have to prep for that in terms of making time with getting ahead basically in school and everything. Just started college as well. But I did film videos when I was in at the 2 parks in Oregon, so I'm hoping I can at least get one of them out this month, if not both of them. Sort of vlog style videos. It's unlike really anything I've ever had on the channel, so wanted to mention that. And then for like actual Coaster Time streams, I know there's some people that I've talked to for being guests, and I think I said I was planning to get back into it in September. That'll probably be an October thing at this point because there's just quite a bit of stuff going on. But hopefully this 2 vlog style videos will release this month, or at least one of them will. And then also if there's any announcements that come at a convenient time where I can react to it, you know, SeaWorld has some stuff coming up, then I will be doing reaction live streams to those as well. So wanted to mention that. That's sort of what's going on. Philip, yeah, sorry about that in terms of missing the stream, but you were just at Enchanted Forest. Yeah, it's a beautiful park. Actually, I will definitely say this for anyone watching live or watching afterwards. Enchanted Forest is very much impressed me. Definitely a park that if you're ever in Oregon, if you're ever in Portland, find a way to get to this park. It's, for what it is, it's incredible. The attention to detail with all the theming and everything, considering it's a small family independent park. Most of the stuff really built by one person. It's really a special place. You're not going to find really anything else like it. And you got obviously a small ride lineup, but some quality top ones. I didn't talk about it earlier, but in addition with Ice Mountain Bobsled, which I really liked, you also had Challenge of Mondor, which was actually my favorite attraction that I experienced in the state. It was a really cool trackless dark ride. You don't expect to see technology like that at a park of its size, but it was really neat. So I really liked that ride, and that was my favorite one there. But of course, do the walkthroughs when you're there. I did about as much of it as possible. Super fun stuff. And definitely is the sort of the heart and soul of that park is the walkthroughs. Along with the fountain show in the cavern. That was also a really cool one. The fountain show inside of that restaurant was pretty incredible as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff there for sure. Yeah, Busch Gardens Tampa, they do have something in the works for 2024. New coaster of some sort, most likely. But, yeah, the Vekoma family Boomerang, I've heard the rumor for that dueling is new, but I wouldn't be stunned. I've heard that as a rumor. I don't know that I fully believe it, but I've heard of that for Busch Gardens Tampa as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's a miracle that Enchanted Forest even exists. I mean, they barely scraped by through the pandemic, surviving off of a GoFundMe and eBay auctions. They're just absolutely crazy. And it's a very unique park. Like I said, definitely do it. If you're ever in Oregon, it's must do. Oaks Amusement Park is also a nice park as well. Has some cool stuff there. As I mentioned, Adrenaline Peak was my favorite coaster. I did a decent amount of the flat rides, which they have a pretty nice collection there. Their E&F Miler Kiddie coaster was actually pretty good. And then the skating rink, which I did for a little bit, was actually really cool. The organ was playing when I was there. So that was a really neat vibe. Oldest operating skating rink and like the largest one west of the Mississippi. So it's pretty neat. Hello, Sanford Bridge. Welcome to the chat. I did have a great summer. A lot of trips. So definitely was a good summer for sure. So thank you for that. No joke. Just heard Vekoma. Oh wait, yeah, I already read through that. I did actually ride the Rolo plane, or the Rocco plane, at Oaks Amusement Park. So I did ride it. I had never ridden any previously, even though the park in Fresno, that Playland Fresno, actually had one, but it got removed relatively recently, actually, before they reopened after the pandemic. So I actually never experienced it, and I never did the one at Santa Cruz. So this was the first one I had ever done. I actually rode it with my brother. It's a really cool vintage ride. I definitely recommend checking it out if you have not done it, especially because it's like a pretty customizable ride experience. Like you can kind of go as crazy or uncrazy as you want. But I don't know if it was the fact that it was two of us and maybe that made it harder to rock because we had to like time things up correctly. Because I think I've heard like some people who've done it in single have gone like crazy, or what it was, but it just like, it kind of wore me out, like trying to flip it, and, it ended up being more difficult than I expected. And it did make me a little motion sick, so I will say that, but it was still a neat ride to check out, for sure. Obviously, it's awesome that they keep it around and keep it in good shape when it's a ride model that's really dying out, so it's nice to see. In Fiesta, Texas, you need a coaster without inversions, so an Intamin Mega Coaster would be excellent. Yeah, that would be like so sick for that park. I would love to see something like that. Even though I'm not a fan of B&M hypers, and I would certainly rather see a hyper from either Intamin, Vekoma, or well, in Intamin's case, it doesn't even have to be a hyper, but mock rides. But even a B&M would be like a pretty nice fit there. So, although might seem a little similar to Steel Eel, from just like the look of it off ride. So I think they'd probably go with something a little different. But yeah, any other questions in the chat? Let me know. I probably will head out in about 7 minutes here at 10:20 Eastern time. But nice to, of course, do coaster time again. Do one of these viewer call-in streams. I think I checked it had been like 9 months since I did the last one, so pretty crazy that it's been that long. But I am happy to do it, and hopefully it won't be another 9 months before I do another one. Maybe around IAPA we'll do another one, because that used to kind of be a tradition of sorts. But we'll see how that goes, and if that is able to work out. What did I think of the Ferris wheel at Santa Monica Pier? I've actually never ridden it. The only ride I've ridden at Santa Monica is West Coaster, unfortunately, so You know, if I go back at some point, which we'll see if that happens, at Pacific Park, that's definitely something that I would like to check out because you would obviously get some great views of really everything. So, and it's also, I mean, West Coaster is the most iconic ride there, but the Ferris wheel is also pretty iconic. So, yeah. You rode Cobra at Connieland. Let's go. That's actually really cool. 10 times more intense than you expected. Very weird coaster. All right, pull some serious G's. Then that is good to hear. And you rode it with like they adjusted it, I believe. So it's been like altered a little bit. I remember talking about it, but I forget what the extent of what the change was. Let's see. Cobra. I thought they did some change to it. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought they did something, but I looked on RCDB, it doesn't mention anything like that, so maybe they didn't. Maybe I'm getting confused with something else. I thought they adjusted the spike element or did something weird to it, but I may have gotten mixed up with something else. But yeah, I probably got mixed up with something else. So if I did, then disregard that. I've been to Santa Monica. I've actually been to Santa Monica more than a few times. Actually, a few times, probably like I think 4 times, 3-4 times. And only have done the park twice. I mean, it's got a beach, you know. I did mess around with like those swing things with the rings. I mean, it's nice. Like it's by the beach. I don't really get into the water much here in California because it's too cold. But I mean, I don't have like super strong feelings about it. But it's a nice place to go to. Definitely, like I said, very iconic. I think I got mixed up. I must have. Stamford Bridge can elaborate if they actually did. They did extend the scorpion tail. Okay, so I'm not crazy because I'm like I could have sworn they did something. I like. Let's see. Where was it? Yeah, I was on a Reddit post. Okay. Yeah, I want to look at this. It's just it's bugging me now that I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, they made it like go up a little bit. Yeah, that is pretty weird and kind of screwed up. But that kind of describes that ride probably. Did I see the new photos of the RMC Raptor at Wallaby Holland? Like I don't think like there are new pictures because unless you're confusing the Hot Racer, then I've heard about that, but I don't recall there being any recent info with the RMC Wallaby Holland thing. But yeah, that coaster is still a long ways out. I did find the picture of the spike. So yeah, they kind of made it go up a little bit, which is funny. So they are building it now. Man, I focus so much on getting all the announcements. Really? I feel like the Hot Racer is being built. I don't think the Raptor at Wallaby Holland's being built. I think you're getting confused with the Hot Racer. because unless that's like brand new, like it just happened, and because I cannot remember that. That does not seem. I have doubts. It just doesn't. It doesn't sound like something that I've heard recently. So I think you're getting confused with the Hot Racer. Yeah, I don't see anything on that anywhere. So, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't recall seeing anything on that. That'd be weird because it's supposed to open in 2025, so that would be a little early if they were doing it now. Yeah, I gotta get Silverwood at some point. I mentioned that I went to Washington earlier. I didn't do any of the parks there. I'll do those hopefully in the future. I was in Seattle anyways, which is like really far from Silverwood. Yeah, I definitely, it's gonna be a journey because you have to fly to like Spokane, Washington, and like drive an hour or an hour and a half or whatever it is, to get to Silverwood. It's definitely one of those parks that's a little bit of an interesting one to get to, but I definitely would love to get there at some point. I've seen videos and whatnot. I think it's a park I'd really like. Reminds you of Holiday World a bit. Yeah, I think it looks pretty dang good. So I definitely would love to check that out in the future. I mean, in terms of like between that and Lagoon, for like West Coast-ish, like my most anticipated parks, probably would still go with Lagoon. But those two are like pretty close for that. So I'd love to get there at some point. It's just kind of like geographically it's not that far from me, but it feels so far. Even compared to like some other parks that are theoretically much further. It's just like, yeah, but how am I supposed to get there? So it feels very distant in that way. But I think that's gonna wrap it up. Yeah, I think on that note, I will wrap up the stream. So it's not convenient to get to. You just drove 5 hours from Seattle. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, that also is a way you could do that. So you do have that option, but it's a tricky one for sure. And it definitely is like, yeah, it definitely just one of those out of the way parks. I mean, Holiday World is too, to be fair, but at least like there's airports that are like kind of near other parks, like Louisville's not that far, and you're near Kentucky Kingdom, and there's it's just like Silverwood is like really out there, but definitely worth doing at some point. So but I am going to wrap up the stream here. Thanks everyone for watching, of course, and thanks to everyone who participated in the viewer call-in. And look forward to some more content. It's going to be pretty slow, but I will hopefully get out at least the Oaks Amusement Park vlog style video later in the month, and we'll kind of see what happens and goes from there. So with that being said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time here on Coaster Hour. See you guys.